very first thing I'm going to do is add something so that we can actually visualize our force field. So I'm going to add a plane in here, and I'm just going to quickly add a particle system. Remember, that's going to be right above our physics tab right here. Just click on plus, make sure it's set to emitter, and if we press play, we have some particles. Now, the reason we're going to do it this way is because it's going to be really easy to see what's happening to our particles and how force fields affect different objects. So instead of adding rigid body objects, which are also affected by force fields, we're going to be taking a look at these particles. So I'm going to go ahead and back this up. I'm going to go ahead and add in a force field. The simplest force field is the force field. So I'm going to add that in, and you'll see that it sort of looks like an empty. I'm going to go ahead and drag this down here. I'm going to kind of set it off to the left here. Now, there's a couple of important things to note. Force fields are quite different than most things that we've talked about in this course. If we go over here to our physics tab, you'll see there's a lot of different settings, but don't get overwhelmed because I'm going to go through the most important of these settings. The most important one is the strength. So how much does the force field push or pull? And what the regular force field does, the first option here, is it will either pull things inwards or it will push them away. So let's go ahead and take a look at what happens right now with the strength of 1. Not too much should happen. You can see that it affects our particles just a little bit. It's pushing them off to the right. Let's go ahead and increase this value to 10. And let's go ahead and back up our animation. Now look at how much it's pushing our particles now. Okay? Now here's what's really interesting. There's something called fall off. I'm going to go ahead and enable that down here. There's a minimum distance and a maximum distance. And you can see they're both set to 0. If we go ahead and raise this value, you'll see this little dotted line. That means that that is where the force field will start, and then the maximum distance is the maximum distance it will affect something. In other words, between those two dotted circles, that is the only place that the force field will actually happen. So let's go ahead and take a look. Let's go back to frame 1. Let's just move this inside of our force field. And you can see how it only takes place inside that circle. Let's go ahead and move this up here. Notice how you can really see now how it's only affected in that outer circle area. Or if I move this over to the right and go back, notice how it's only affected on the very edge, and that's because we have a fall off. So again, that's just deciding where the force starts and stops. Now, remember, we can push things, but we can also pull them. So if I set my strength to a negative number, maybe negative 40, let's go ahead and see what happens here. And now we start to get an attraction towards our force field. And you can clearly see how the fall off works right here. I'm going to go ahead and disable the fall off, and we're going to go back to frame 1. And we're going to start this up. Now you can see how all of our particles are attracted towards our force field here. Now there's a lot of particles going on here. One thing I want to mention though, and this is where we come back to our gravity, is if we go to our scene settings right here and we pop open this gravity tab, we can actually just turn our gravity to 0. And now everything should look a little bit different. Notice how our spheres begin to collect more because we have no gravity. All right. Now this is really important because if you want to simulate a a space environment with 0 G, you can do so by just completely turning off the gravity altogether. Now that was our force field. The next force field that we're going to talk about is going to be turbulence.